Artemi Panarin comes up clutch for the New York Rangers with a hat trick and an assist in one of his best games of the season, and that's saying quite a lot. Plus, is Jonny Brodzinski the real deal? All this and more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 954 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And that song you're hearing right now is, of course, Leave the Lights On from our good friends in Passafire. Definitely check those guys out anywhere you get your music. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And so the Rangers definitely made it interesting. Obviously, you would have liked to have seen them close a little bit more authority in this, what turned out to be a crazy 6-5 home win, back and forth pretty much the entire way against the San Jose Sharks. But you know what? The Rangers found a way to get it done. That's kind of been a theme all season, and can't go a second longer here without talking about the man of the hour. That would, of course, be Artemi Panarin, who comes through with a hat trick. He was all over the ice. Just another fantastic game by Artemi Panarin, who's had quite a few of them to start the season as he reestablishes himself as a bona fide Hart Trophy candidate. But, you know, the craziest thing about this, I mean, obviously Panarin got the hat trick, and that's all well and good, but it's the fact that he almost got a hat trick in the first period. His first two goals were in the first period, and with the way Panarin has played so far this season, just the eye test, you know, how he was going in this game, when Artemi Panarin gets two goals that early, you almost think that it's kind of going to be an upset if he does not complete the hat trick at a certain point in this game. Because his first two goals, you know, he still had 40-something minutes to get the last one. You just had a feeling that it was probably going to happen, or at least I did. And I'm sure a lot of you could probably feel it, you know, in the air, maybe going to happen for Artemi Panarin on this night. And indeed, that does happen. And he adds an assist to boot. And the assist might have been bigger than any of the goals, because that turned out to be the primary assist on what was the game-winning goal by Artemi Panarin. And I'm going to go ahead and break down all these goals, and we can kind of relive just a fantastic night for Artemi Panarin. But let me just preface the whole thing by saying that a lot of this, really everything Panarin's done this season, but especially this game last night, is happening because he is shooting the puck more. And I think a lot of us, you know, before this season, coming into this season, we wanted to see that from Artemi Panarin. There was a, to throw a stat at you guys. So 89 shots on goal so far this season. Last year at this time, or last year in total, he ended up with 204 shots on goal. So he's going to fly right past that. His previous career high for shots on goal is 228. He did that with the Jackets in 2017, 2018. So he'll pass that as well. And I think it's really possible that if this game happened last year or the year before that, or really just about any season that Artemi Panarin has spent with the New York Rangers, I think there's a decent chance that Panarin, instead of getting the hat trick, ends up with 0 goals. And it's not because, you know, he doesn't have the ability, or he didn't have the ability or the skill set before this season. It's just the simple fact that he's that much more willing to shoot the puck, and got a couple of dirty goals in this game as well. But to kind of illustrate my point here, we're going to go ahead and go through all 3 goals. This first one happened because he just decided to pull the trigger. I mean, it's basically as simple as that. The Rangers were on a power play. You had Kreider with a deflection that was stopped. The save was made against Vincent Trocheck right after that. And then eventually the Rangers get the puck back, and Panarin's got it. He's kind of circling up past the top of the left face-off circle, getting toward the center of the ice. And again, just kind of pulls the trigger, shoots it at the net. And there's all kinds of traffic there. You had Kreider in front of the net. Trocheck was there too. A couple of the Sharks defenders were there. So a lot of traffic. And I don't think the goalie ever saw it. I mean, just based on his reaction and, you know, the fact that he was kind of moving to his left and the puck was to his right, it just never felt like he got a look at it. And maybe that was Panarin's thinking there. Maybe he was shooting for a deflection from either Trocheck or Kreider. But even if they don't deflect it, you know, he's still got a decent chance of scoring himself. But he let it rip here. Great wrist shot. And he scores. And that tied the game at 1-1 at that point. In fact, the puck technically did score on a deflection. It just wasn't a Ranger that deflected it. It deflected off of a Sharks defender and into the net. But either way, Panarin being decisive. And again, I just don't know that he shoots from that area on the ice in years past. I think there's a decent chance that he hangs onto the puck for a second or two longer, or maybe tries to, set up a pass to somebody else. And that's all well and good. And Panarin's a phenomenal passer. We all know that. But he's now taking advantage of having a great shot, and we saw that here. It was on display, and he scored, tied the game at 1-1 after the Sharks had gotten the first goal of the game. The second goal for Panarin, you've got Vincent Trocheck moving up the right side, passes to Lafreniere. Lafreniere tried to basically just go right to the net, kind of got knocked off the puck a little bit, but then you get Trocheck picking it up behind the San Jose net, comes around, wraparound opportunity, tries to stuff at home, can't do it, but there's Artemi Panarin. He's crashing the net, and he stuffs in the rebound. And this second line for the Rangers, which is really their first line, but for semantics purposes, they're always listed as the second line. But man, every time these guys cross the blue line, every time they go into the zone on a rush, they're doing it with a purpose, and they seemingly believe that they're going to score every time. And I feel like that's kind of half the battle, to just have that mindset, have that aggression. And as a fan watching this, I feel the same way. Every time these three guys are zipping across the blue line, and they're all good skaters, they're all great passers, they can all finish, it just feels like something good is about to happen, that you're not going to be the least bit surprised if they end up putting one in the net. And they stuck with it here. All three of them had a big hand in this second goal by Artemi Panarin. This goal, once again, tied the game, this time at 2-2. And then, of course, the hat trick. What took Panarin so long here? He got the first two goals kind of early, and then didn't get the third one until the third period. But regardless, just great plays all around here. You had Keandre Miller preventing the puck just barely from leaving the San Jose zone. So that kind of keeps the play alive. And then Jonny Brodzinski, he was just onto the ice. He had just jumped over the boards and was on the ice. And man, he looked like he had a jetpack. I mean, the way he went flying up to get this puck, he got it, got control of it, went in, right to the net, tried to shoot. The stop was made, or the save was made. But it was a backhand shot by Brodzinski. But then you've got Trocheck getting there. He's crashing the net. He tries to put in the rebound. That is stopped as well. But then there's Artemi Panarin following it up. So a third chance goal by the New York Rangers, and the second dirty goal of the night for Artemi Panarin. And I don't have the exact quote in front of me right now, but actually, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So Panarin, after the game, and this was a tweet courtesy of Vince Mercogliano. He's interviewing Artemi Panarin after the game, and this is what Panarin had to say about, crashing the net there and scoring in that way. He says, "I go to the net twice in my life, and then both times it worked. Maybe I have to start listening to coaches." So giving props to the coaches, that's cool in and of itself. Just putting the coaches over for telling him to do that a little bit more often. And hey, obviously it worked here. And if Panarin can add that to his game on top of everything else that he does for this team, all the better. It's just a fantastic night for Artemi Panarin. But we're not going to just stop with the 3 goals. Let's talk about the assists. And again, you could make the argument that this is the biggest one of the night. When it happened, it made the score 6-3 Rangers, and you're thinking like, oh, that's cool. We're well on our way to a win now. Little insurance goal here at the end. Obviously he assists Keandre Miller, but it turns out to be the game-winning goal because the Sharks got 2 after that. We're going to talk a little bit about the Rangers' shaky close to this game. We'll get to that eventually. But for right now, let's just enjoy Artemi Panarin doing what he does, setting up Keandre Miller for, again, what turned out to be the game-winning goal. Panarin defensively was phenomenal on this shift. Before he ever even got control of the puck, before he ever even made the pass to Miller, got Panarin stealing the puck, and then made a play at the blue line, the Sharks blue line, to keep the puck in the zone. Then a little bit later in the same shift, he ends up stealing the puck again on the other side of the Sharks zone, and now he's got control of it. Doesn't have a lot of room to operate, but he gets the pass across the ice to Keandre Miller, and then Miller makes it 6-3 with a great shot. About 7 minutes left, and again, it got a little bit dicey toward the end, but what a great play by Artemi Panarin here. Cannot say enough about the job he's doing this season. He is now on pace for 53 goals and 125 points. And as I mentioned a second ago, firmly in the Hart Trophy race. It's not going to be easy because the Rangers do have a lot of very skilled players, and there's other guys that could even be dark horse candidates themselves. But man, Artemi Panarin has just been absolutely phenomenal this season. It's been great to see. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. We're going to shift our attention to the slightly different line combinations that the Rangers went with in this game as opposed to what they went with the previous game at the start of the game. And then, of course, they shuffled the deck and mixed everything up. So the lines they went with in this one were a little bit closer to what they started with in the second most recent game. And I'll explain all that, go through all that in just a second. And we're going to especially focus on Jonny Brodzinski and what he's bringing to the table for the Rangers, at least thus far since being called back up. And like I said, we'll get to all that fun stuff in just a second. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's US data shows that over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment that they sponsor a job. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Big shout out to the everydayers and a big thank you to everybody for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Once again, the show is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And for the everydayers, the next episode, I'm not sure 100%. I got to be honest here, but we're going to get to something fun. Don't worry. The Rangers have the Senators up next. They have a road game on Tuesday night, so they're going to be playing Ottawa then, looking for another win. And then after that, the Rangers do get a little bit of a break. Going to be at the Cap Saturday, and then home against the Kings on Sunday. But yeah, things obviously looking good for the Rangers, and obviously it's been a blast of a season so far, and hopefully they can just keep it going. And like I said, we're going to be breaking down all those games from every angle and get into some other things as well. But let's go ahead, shift our attention to the lineup. So as we know, in the game before this one, the Rangers, they were a little bit shaky. They were playing the Predators. They get down 2-0. The first period was, pretty bad. Let's just call it what it is. And they come out in the second period, and for the first time all season, Peter Laviolette well and truly threw his lines into a blender. It was completely different. And kind of the million-dollar question after that, especially after the Rangers came back and won that game against Nashville, was, okay, are they going to go back to the way that it was before the changes were made in the game against Nashville, or will he stick with the new look lines? And the answer was not quite either. We got lines that were similar to what we've been seeing overall, but a little bit different. And the biggest difference is that you now have Jonny Brodzinski playing on the first line. Now, Brodzinski, in the game against Nashville, one of the changes that the Rangers made was to move him up to the second line. He was he obviously got a bump up the lineup and he was into the top six. But in this line, they take it a step further. You've got Mika on the top line, centering Chris Kreider, and Jonny Brodzinski playing on the right wing. More on that in just a second, but to just run through the line combos real quick here. You got then Vincent Trocheck centering Artemi Panarin and Alexis Lafreniere on the second line. And I like this. This line has just been too successful. I mean, you could mix them up a little bit if you want, if you just have Panarin and Lafreniere still together, but have Trocheck somewhere else. I mean, that's always an option. You could do that. But again, this trio has just been so good together, so dominant, and far and away the Rangers' best, at least offensively. Their best line when it comes to 5v5 play and just playing quality hockey every single night. So I didn't really want to see these guys broken up long term, and it doesn't look like they will be. They were right back together in this game here against the Sharks, so that's good. Then you got the third line. Nick Bonino is back on the third line. Barclay Goodrow's down to the fourth line, but you got Bonino centering Will Cooley, who had been dropped to the fourth line. He's now back up to the third line. He's on the left wing here. And then you got Blake Wheeler on the right wing, kind of just by default. I don't think you want Wheeler on the fourth line. I mean, it could be on the table later this season. I don't think they're ready to do that just yet, but that's your third line. And then the fourth line, you've got Goodrow starring Jimmy Vesey on the left wing, Tyler Pitlick on the right wing. Vesey, he's played so well, and I feel like he does deserve better than being on the fourth line right now. But I suppose it's a good problem to have. Obviously, the Rangers are a much, much deeper team than they've been in a long time. I mean, you could even compare it to last year. I think they're a deeper team. But if you want to go back like 3 years or 4 years, there's no comparison. Seriously, go back and look at some of the depth charts the Rangers had 4 years ago and notice that you had Brett Howden maybe centering the second line or the third line. You had Elias Anderson in the mix there. Vitaly Kravtsov, when he actually felt like playing hockey, he was in there in the top six. So the Rangers, like I said, there's just there's nobody that is there and does not have a purpose. And when you have somebody like Jimmy Vesey, who's been hot lately and just played very good hockey overall, when you've got him on the fourth line and you don't think there's anything terribly wrong with that, that's obviously a good thing as well. So Yeah, I mean, those are the line combinations. The defense pairings were exactly how they've been pretty much all season. But to kind of hone in on Jonny Brodzinski here, because I did want to talk about him in a little bit more detail. What an opportunity that he has here. He's been through waivers a couple of times in his career, 30 years old now, bouncing back and forth between the Rangers and the Wolfpack the last few seasons. He's the captain of the Wolfpack, and everybody that sees him in action down there and knows him, they tend to rave about what a good job he does. And obviously the Rangers a couple of off seasons ago, they re-signed him to a 2-year deal because I think they really value him in that role. Can go back and forth between the NHL and the AHL, and is a great leader, a great lead by example kind of guy for the young guys with the Hartford Wolfpack. I think they really value him in that role, like I said. And it's crazy because Brodzinski with the Wolfpack, he's on their top line, he's on their top power play unit, he's on their top penalty kill unit, and obviously he's not going to have quite as big of a role for the Rangers. But you know what? He's got a big role right now because anytime you're out there on the top line, you've got a big role. And obviously, some of this is by default because the Ranger top line, they haven't really figured it out yet. And I know some people want them to split up Mika and Kreider, but if we assume that the two of them stay together, as they have for most of the season, Capo Caco got the first crack at it this year. Didn't really work. The points weren't really there. They ended up flip-flopping him with Blake Wheeler. And then, of course, Caco got hurt. And hopefully he gets back soon. But then Blake Wheeler gets the opportunity, and he picked it up a little bit, a couple of points here and there, some good passes, every once in a while, but wasn't setting the world on fire either. And now here's Jonny Brodzinski getting the opportunity, the best opportunity that he's had in his career, and he has responded in a big way with 4 assists in the last 2 games combined. And that's obviously very cool to see, but just somebody who does everything right. Every time he's been sent down to the Hartford Wolfpack, doesn't complain, doesn't throw a fit. He obviously got waived at the end of this year's preseason, and a lot of people were hoping that Brodzinski would make the team, maybe even thinking that he would. He didn't. Fortunately, he did clear waivers. And then he goes down, and has he responded that well? I don't know if this is still the case because he hasn't played for the Wolfpack in a couple of games now, but as of the time of Brodzinski's call-up, he was the leading point scorer in the entire AHL. So that's very impressive. And getting his opportunity here now with the Rangers, and it's just really cool to see him mostly coming through. There was that play against the Predators too, where he's down on the ice and blocking the opportunity for the Predators to potentially score a goal because the net had been vacated at that point. But again, playing well, getting rewarded for it. He's played in the 3 most recent games. He also played in a game on November 4th, I believe it was. But his time on the ice, these 3 games that he's played in this most recent run here, has gone up every single night. Including this game against the Sharks. He ends up with 11 minutes, 56 seconds of ice time. He had the aforementioned 2 assists. He was also a +1, 3 shots on goal, 1 block shot, and even 1-0 on the faceoff circle. And again, the 4 combined assists, and just awesome to see that. Obviously, we already covered the assist that he had when he was out there with Panarin and making things happen there when he just came flying off the bench. But to cover the other assist that Brodzinski got, this gave the Rangers their first lead of this game at 3-2. And it's funny because we've seen a couple of Rangers recently bat the puck out of the air and have it lead to a goal. You had Jimmy Vesey with that game-winning goal against the Devils. It was close to being a high stick, but I think it was fair and legal, and the officials thought the same thing. And Vesey with a great play there. And then in a recent game, he had Kreider also batting the puck out of the air and him knocking it into the net to score a goal. Well, here, Jonny Brodzinski basically does the same thing, only when he batted the puck, it led to a secondary assist. Because basically what happened, Rangers gained the blue line. You got Kreider playing it across the ice into the corner, and Jonny Brodzinski is looking to go track down the puck. And as Brodzinski's approaching the puck hit the boards in kind of a weird way. It was right in the corner there, and it popped into the air. And as it popped into the air, quick thinking by Brodzinski, because I think a lot of times you might try to glove that and drop it and then play it. He just reached up with his stick and just swatted it. He basically took a baseball swing at it. It went behind the net to Kreider, and I think that's exactly what Brodzinski was trying to do there, just trying to get it back to Kreider. And Kreider with a very quick pass in front to Mika Zibanejad, and Mika converts from the doorstep. Rufsick, great shot there by Mika Zibanejad. But man, Brodzinski, can't say enough about the job he did here. He had, I know it was only the secondary assist, but he had as much of a hand in this one as anybody on the ice did. So that was really cool to see. And again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. I feel like right now with Laviolette, when it comes to that top line right wing spot, there aren't any awesome options where it's man, this guy's going to be a point per game player. I don't think that player really exists for the Rangers right now as far as somebody who's going to play the top line right wing spot. Brandon Hoffman could be that guy in the future, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it if he gets called up. But right now, we saw Caco get the first crack, didn't work. They gave Blake Wheeler a shot. I mean, he picked it up a little bit, but not setting the world on fire like I mentioned earlier. And now it's Jonny Brodzinski's turn. And I feel like the message from Peter Laviolette and the Ranger coaching staff to these players is basically that, whoever it might be, whoever might be gunning for that spot on the top line right wing, is that, hey, this job is wide open right now. So if you want it, go get it, go take it. And Jonny Brodzinski taking the bull by the horns in a major way the first couple of games that he's played there. In these last 2 games, he's been in the top 6, and specifically in this one, he was on the top line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. And the simple fact that, I mean, not only is he just, hustling his tail off, which he always does. He always does that. But now he's producing points. So that simple fact alone, I think, is going to allow him to get at least another couple cracks at it here. And lo and behold, Jonny Brodzinski, who did not make the team, who had to pass through waivers and went unclaimed, who was with the Hartford Wolfpack and laying the AHL on fire against all odds, 30-year-old Jonny Brodzinski right now lines up to be the top line right winger for the New York Rangers. And that's a feel-good story. The one goal that I believe was after the goal that Mika scored, they showed Kreider and Mika and Brodzinski on the bench, and Brodzinski was just so happy, smiling ear to ear, looking like he was having a lot of fun and just really happy to be contributing. And look, there's going to be some Ranger fans that don't get excited about Jonny Brodzinski. Come on, this guy, he's a career minor leaguer, barely 100 NHL games. The Rangers have prospects, or they got to trade for somebody. Look, we might see Brian Hoffman this season. We might see the Rangers cut a deal for a right winger at or near the trade deadline. But for the time being, try to just enjoy this a little bit. It's a feel-good story. It's somebody that's kind of been forgotten and just keeps going to work every single day, whether he's with the Wolfpack or the Rangers, and he's getting a reward for his opportunity. And like I said, the way he's played these last couple of games here, you've got to believe that he's going to get at least another couple shots at being the top line right winger. So we'll see how it goes. How long can this last? We're going to find out, and it'll be an interesting situation regardless of what happens. But I'm happy for Jonny Brodzinski getting this opportunity and thus far making the most of it. So we're going to keep everything rolling just a second here. Want to eventually go ahead and talk a little bit about the Rangers. Kind of a shaky ending to this game, so we're going to get into that and talk a little bit about them not being able to play well on the shift that follows a goal, because that continued again in this game. We'll get to all that good stuff, or not so good stuff, in just a second. But first, let's go ahead and let everybody know about today's sponsor, and that would, of course, be Game Time. You should not have to worry when you're buying your tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without all those annoying hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Also, just want to let everybody know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so we'll go ahead and keep everything rolling here. And there were a couple things you could nitpick from this game. Obviously, you're underwhelmed by the opponent. You want to see the Rangers just, basically slaughter them and run away with an easy win. The reality of the situation is, and it's something we've talked about on here, there are not a lot of easy wins in this league. When they do happen, you just have to enjoy them all the more, because it doesn't happen all that often. And of course, as we discussed, kind of previewing this game, the Sharks have played a little bit better recently. And I thought they played well in this game. They were out there competing hard every single shift. It's not a team that has a ton of firepower. It's clearly not the most talented team in the league, but they got after it, and they gave the Rangers all they could handle in this game. But I, again, wanted to talk about, the shift that follows a goal, because we talked about the Miller goal that put the Rangers up 6-3. And at that point, you're not home free. You're never really home free in this league, but you're up by 3 goals against, again, and no disrespect intended here, I'm just stating the fact, the team with the worst record in the NHL, up by 3 goals against that team with 7 minutes or so to go. You feel like, okay, we're pretty close to putting 2 points on the board here, the standings board for the New York Rangers. And of course, wasn't that easy. The Rangers again, this problem that just keeps coming up is they just were not sharp in the shift that follows a goal times 2 here, because no sooner did Keandre Miller score here than we had, the Sharks striking back, and he had a rush into the zone. Quick made a kick save, but then Zetterlund buried the rebound with 5:22 to go. That cut the Ranger lead to 6-4. And at this point, I said out loud when this happened, I said, close the door, guys. Like, let's just close this game strong. The Sharks have battled, and yeah, it's a dogfight. And I know I just got done saying that every game in this league is it's not an easy win. There's very few easy wins. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, enough of this. They've gone toe to toe with us for long enough. Let's snuff this out before it gets any crazier. But then it did get crazier, because just a minute and 12 seconds after this, you've got a redirection goal for the Sharks with 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go. And at this point, timeout by the Rangers. I thought this was a good use of the timeout for Peter Laviolette. He wasn't like losing his mind, but obviously speaking very sternly to the players. And something that I've noticed here, and I think it's just a good sign for this team going forward, when Peter Laviolette is talking to this team, these guys listen. They listen to his every word, and I don't need to be there. I don't need to be a lip reader. I don't have to, be in the Rangers huddle there to know this for sure. You just look at the body language. You look at every single player on the bench, on the ice. They're all looking right at him. Everybody's leaning forward. Even guys who aren't going to be on the ice, you can kind of see them like at the edge of the camera, and they're kind of like leaning into the shot to try to hear everything that he's going to say. And that's great. When the coach has that kind of, when he commands that kind of respect, and the players are taking their cues from him, the way the Rangers seem to be taking their cues from Laviolette, that's a good thing. And again, I'm not an expert lip reader or anything like that, but the message seemed to be, just finish the game, finish the job. Obviously, at this point, you've given up 2 goals, but hey, you know what? There's 4:10 to go in this game. You're up by a goal. If you play well for the final 4 minutes here, it's still your game. I don't know for sure that that's what the message was, but I would imagine it would be something along those lines, along with maybe some language that I can't repeat here. But you know what? The Rangers, again, they found a way to get the job done here. The Sharks, they had a couple of chances down the stretch. The Rangers took an icing with a minute and 17 seconds to go. And then the Sharks took their timeout. The Sharks have their goalie pulled, and the Rangers go with Goodrow, Vesey, Miller, Trouba, and Bonino. And you look at this lineup for the Rangers at the end of the game here, and there really are a lot of really, really good options that the Rangers can go with at the end of games when they are protecting a 1-goal lead. And I mean, there's 5 examples right there. Obviously, Trouba and Miller, they're fantastic together. We know that. Bonino's always going to be out there in a spot like this. Jimmy Vesey's usually going to be out there. Barclay Goodrow. I mean, that's why he's on this team. And I thought the Rangers mostly defended well here. Got a little bit chaotic, I guess, here and there. The Sharks got 1 or 2 chances, but Quick made a couple of saves. And then you got guys like, Mika Zibanejad's out there. Chris Kreider's out there. Trouba and Lindgren were out there together at the same time. You got Vincent Trocheck winning all these faceoffs clean. There's a lot to like about the way that the Rangers concluded this game. And then, with 31 seconds to go, Quick, gloves the puck. Looked like he wanted to play it, but they blew the whistle. So there's an offensive zone faceoff, or offensive zone for the Sharks, defensive zone for the Rangers. But then Trocheck wins another faceoff, another icing, another faceoff. I think Trocheck won that one as well. But then the Sharks, they eventually get the puck and they pass it out of their own zone. But I hated the last couple of seconds of this game because, first of all, Sam Rosen is saying, "Oh, that'll do it." The puck was in the Shark zone, but I'm looking and it's like 11 seconds, 10 seconds, and Granlund's getting pretty close to the puck, and I'm thinking like, I don't know. If Granlund picks up the puck here and just zips up the ice, it's possible they get one more shot at it, and that's basically what happened. Granlund right up the center of the ice, and the Rangers just didn't do anything to get in his way, to knock him off the puck or anything. And Granlund actually got a shot away at the very end. Not sure if it would have counted or not. Went wide of the net. But a couple of scary moments in the final seconds there. But regardless, look, a win is a win, right? It's another 2 points. We talked about how, again, there are no easy wins in this league. And I think it's only appropriate. David Quinn was obviously in the building. He's the coach of the Sharks now. I think it's only appropriate to quote him at the end of this one. He used to say, a couple of times if the Rangers would kind of like get an ugly win while he was their coach, he would say something like, it wasn't exactly a Picasso. And I think that applies here. The Rangers, they found a way. Obviously, Panarin had a phenomenal night. We're seeing some good things from Jonny Brodzinski. Jonathan Quick has still not lost a game in regulation. I know he gave up 5 goals in this one, and he's had better games than this, obviously. But I believe now 7-0-1 is Jonathan Quick in the 8 starts that he's made this season. And I don't think anybody saw that coming. So there's a lot to like. Would have been nice to see the Rangers close out this game a little bit better than they did. Hopefully that's something that they can work on going forward. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is at LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.